Okay.
Begin.
Beep, beep, beep.
Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Josh. All a little bit different mindset now.
Oh, man.
Relaxed.
I know.
So,
Is that what we are?
We're striving towards.
so if you're just now tuning in, we're dealing with a little bit of irritation because when a battery goes out in one of your devices that you're trying to record,
It goes beep, beep,
you got to
beep,
change
beep,
it
beep,
because it sounds bad, and people know they're in, start blowing up our phones.
Shout
Unless
out
it
to
sounds like there's a
you,
cardiac
Adam.
event going on.
That's right. Yeah, it does. Our
So
fan is
we were probably having like 20 minutes or 15 minutes in on a really good conversation about
Yeah.
humor. And so we're gonna semi start over, but not completely. I don't think we can recreate greatness like that.
Hit the
No,
highlights.
it's just lost into the universe.
Okay, so but if you're listening to this on the podcast, I will go and I will try to cut some of that audio and splice it and try to figure out a way to include the good parts of what we just got done talking about, minus the heart monitor that kept beeping while we were trying to talk.
Oh, that's what it was
Everyone
trying
is
to
okay,
say.
though.
It was saying I'm dying because the battery was dying. It was talking to us.
Oh,
It was just trying
Now
to
we
be
have
heard
compassion for
good.
for the inanimate
device.
objects.
Yeah.
I feel
mark
sadness
of
for
a
that
true
inanimate
therapist
object.
right there.
Yeah.
Like that
How
positive
can I tap
reframe.
into my empathy?
Yeah.
My
It's
wife
just
sometimes
dying.
like when the kids will be like, Siri, stop, or Alexa, stop, and she's like, would you not talk to her like that?
Yes, I know. I make my
It
kids
did.
use please and thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
We use our manners.
Yes.
Yes.
Until you start like
I don't
running
know.
into
Sometimes
like,
I yell
the
at her 'cause she
couch
don't
and
listen
you're
to
like,
me.
oh, sorry.
Yeah. I know. Sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you, couch. Oh, man, I'm crazy.
So we're talking about the use of humor in therapy today. Let me just kind of give a little bit of a brief reintroduction of our guest, which is Mary and Josie, who are licensed therapists. They also have special training in betrayal trauma treatment. So we all four of us work together a lot in helping couples, individuals who are battling some form of infidelity or chronic infidelity. And so it really, with that in mind, might make, for an interesting discussion on how you would incorporate humor when we were dealing with such intense types of cases where there's high trauma in those cases. Oftentimes when Carrie and I, when we're doing these podcasts, it's like trying to be careful like where we insert our laughter, because it's like
Right.
we don't want anybody to think that we're making light of really dark and hurtful situations. And so, but you guys also have a podcast called Are You in Session, which right now it is only on YouTube, but very soon will be on the audio platforms as well. So we're excited about that. And I think this might be the first episode to introduce you guys onto the audio platform. Maybe. We'll see.
We're off to a great start.
Yeah.
So Mary and Josie,
Smooth sailing.
thank you guys for being here. I find you guys quite funny. I thought this would be a good topic to have with you guys.
As I said earlier, you're welcome, and we are funny.
And we all also decided that we all think we're funny.
Oh, yes. That was
Independently
something
of-
we established.
Yes.
We all think we are funny.
Okay, so one of you guys give us a summation of what we said, the 15 minutes of conversation. How would you sum it up? That everybody thinks we're funny.
we
All think we're funny.
Yeah.
We think
Yeah, we think
comedians
we're
are
funny.
insecure.
Oh, and we have just enough darkness to be funny, but we're healthy enough to be therapists. Right?
That's right. That's
I
right.
love the
I don't
synopsis,
know.
Mary.
We might be just unhealthy enough to be therapists.
Oh,
Or that.
that's good. There's a fine
Right. It's a
line.
hair
Yeah.
trigger. Yeah.
We also talked about our grad school programs and like the beginnings of when we were training to be a therapist and
Right.
like our experiences of feeling comfortable to use humor, if that was encouraged in our training programs or not,
Right.
given the differences of years and when you and Carrie were in, I feel like I'm ping-ponging back and forth here. The difference of years between when you guys were in your grad school and Mary and I, the change of probably just grad school culture.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Mary and I probably were allowed or encouraged to be a bit
Funny.
more relaxed,
Oh yeah.
therefore funny,
Therefore, because you were funny. Yeah.
than maybe you two when you were in grad school.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
also something
Yeah.
you touched
Yeah,
on.
that's right. Because Carrie and I went through the program together, the graduate program, and you guys did it together. And it's definitely under new leadership.
Well, even
when
since
you guys-
we've been gone too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's different.
It's
Yeah,
changed a little
sure.
bit since you
Yeah.
guys have been gone.
Yeah.
How long you guys been gone now? Has it been 10 years yet?
Finished in 2019.
Oh,
5
so
years.
5
years.
Only halfway.
This
through
year,
the
at the
time.
end of this year, it'll be 5 years.
How long we've
Summer.
been gone, Carrie?
For you.
Long,
Long.
2005.
long.
Just 7 years then. If we're 5.
Yep.
There it
Yeah.
is.
So we had a discussion about, is it appropriate to use humor? I think, we're all in agreement that because we use it, we all think it is at times. And we'll talk about when it becomes inappropriate in a minute. But we just had started a conversation on the purpose behind it. And I think, Mary, you had said, about building rapport, so it does kind of a way that we kind of let our guard down a little bit, and maybe it may or may not help our clients feel a little bit more comfortable with us and that we're human, and not everything has to be so serious all the time.
Well, sometimes in the first session too, I'm like, if you don't like this type of humor, maybe I'm not a good fit for you. So it's like, here's just a little bit of taste of my personality too.
Right.
I'm not trying to scare them off, but
Right. It's a way for them to get to know who you are as a professional.
yeah.
Without you being like, and this is my mom's name, and this is my dog's name.
Mary's basically saying, like, look,
Take it or leave it.
if you don't think I'm funny,
Get out.
Yeah.
then I don't know if this is
I don't
going to
know.
work.
Right.
Did you tell your husband the same thing? I think. Did you? Hey, look.
Probably. Probably.
But also, it's one of those, like, I don't need you to laugh at my jokes, but
Yeah. The right
Yeah.
people will laugh at my jokes.
Oh,
right.
there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why you have us.
Oh, thanks.
So, what about you guys? What would be some other reasons that you find to be beneficial about the use of humor?
I think it all, for me, falls under the, like, umbrella of rapport building. But sometimes modeling or mirroring clients. Mirroring.
It sounded like you said marrying.
Yeah,
I was
I
confused.
wanted to make sure that was corrected. I'm not marrying any clients.
You're
I would like to
Mirror.
keep my
Mirror
license.
reflection.
Mirror
Yeah.
reflecting my
You can-
clients'
You
behaviors.
need the Oklahoma version, mirroring.
Exactly. My
Oh,
Oklahoma accent came out thick there. Yeah.
Aline.
You are funny.
Thank you.
No.
I think so too. Yeah, so that, and even like modeling a lightheartedness when appropriate, of course, or reflecting back to them what they're doing.
Well, I guess you could also even ask yourself if you think that humor is a coping skill.
100%.
And
For
are you-
us or for them or both?
Yeah, both, right? And so are you even mirroring or helping them walk down the line of, hey, here's another coping mechanism of humor, right? And people will say often, if you don't laugh, you'll cry, right?
Yes.
We can unpack that in a lot of ways, but still the idea, are you also in, sitting in that space with clients and like, here, let's cope. Let's add a little sarcasm and humor as a way to cope.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing you're talking about is something that we tend to pay attention to as therapists, which are incongruencies, right? So, like, if we notice from our client that as they start to dive into really deep issues and that obviously aren't funny in the sense of like making light of it, but they will sometimes start to chuckle at certain points or laugh, or maybe as a couple, they see their partner laugh or chuckle and they're like, why are you laughing? And we know that's often a response to being uncomfortable.
Right.
Right. And that's something we're paying attention to. But I think what that also means is that when we introduce humor, it has to be congruent. Like it can't.
Right.
It's got to flow. It can't. It can't be a response to our discomfort. You know, and then we're
That's a
using.
great
And then
point.
we're just doing the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
That probably would not be a time that would be appropriate to like reflect the person's behavior if they're laughing in
And you
between like
join.
serious moments and then
Yeah.
you're chuckling with them.
Yeah.
In that moment, like I feel like I have
Yeah.
to sit in the uncomfortable and just stay pretty stoic.
Yeah. Sometimes in that situation, I'll find myself like smiling and like there's something I'm supposed to be laughing at.
Is it like a smile?
Like,
Like,
you
it's
don't
a-
even realize you're doing it at first?
No, I know I'm doing it.
Oh.
It's on purpose. It's like it's my way of I'm about to call out the incongruency. So what I do is I'll start smiling. Like
Are you
I
modeling
feel like
it
I'm
right now?
missing something that I'm
Yes.
supposed to be like. Or is there
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that instead of just sitting there all stoic, like judgmental, like
That's how I do it.
This is what you're doing wrong. I'm trying to picture that. Is that what you do?
Me? Oh yeah.
I can
you
see
just
that.
stand there
Yeah,
and
I
just
see
you
that.
just
Yeah,
you
I'll
just
just kind
give
of
them the-
watch. I mean, I should
You shooting lasers at them? Or
I have a-
quiet, but I'll just kind of be like,
Yeah.
I'll be
Well,
like,
I mean, I think that's good because
Sure.
I think maybe some of the reason I do what I do is because I don't want them to be embarrassed by what I'm about to call them out on.
Yeah. It's like, here's your warning.
Right. You know, and
Little cushion.
yeah.
Yeah.
I said I'm funny, not nice.
That's true. It really
Thank
is
you
a
for
balancing act though, because there's like the clients, they're really serious and dark, and I'm like, we could throw a little bit of humor in there, you know, bring them back up a little bit, and they're the ones that are just smiling and joking the whole time, even though they're saying, you know, very rough things. It's like, okay, let's bring it back.
Right.
Yeah, definitely a balancing act.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think you're also, though, pointing out that therapists are trying to identify the function of the humor.
Yeah,
Right? Is this a deflection? Is this a nervous response? Is this being out of touch? You know, and you're assessing that, and you pick up on that right away. I think people that are trained to empathize and be intuitive with others kind of understand the function of that. And then as a therapist, then you have choices about how you use that function. Right.
Right.
I like to, when I get to know my clients, when they can laugh at themselves and you just kind of like point that out, right? Like, I know, or that's your process, those kind of things, right? It's an accountability wrapped in humor, wrapped in care, right? And I that's fun, just even as a therapist, right? Getting to
Yeah.
have fun with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, I think humor has become really important, an important part of how I do of my process as a therapist, which is like as we were talking about earlier. Like I didn't even know we could do it when we were in graduate school, like in learning. I didn't even know that was permissible. And then as I got more comfortable in my own skin doing therapy, you know, humor is part of my personality. But there's like the question that I think we're leading into though is like when, like, so for you know, and I think it's different for each therapist. Like when is the appropriate time to introduce it for various reasons. So like for example, like I often if I introduce it early on in session, like in the therapeutic process, so like the first session or the second session, I'm really gauging my clients and where they're at, how they're feeling. Because like if they're coming in crisis, I'm probably not
Sure.
going to do
Right.
anything like that.
Yeah.
But if it's something like they've been in some kind of recovery process for a while, and you know, and they're not in crisis, and the injury isn't extremely severe or anything, there might be an opportunity to mention something funny or comical or something like that as a way of rapport building. So in the beginning, there's not much more of a therapeutic purpose, in my opinion, than to establish rapport with your clients. But I do think as we move along, there's other purposes behind it. One is to like it's almost like a form of crying in a way. It's like it's like de-stressing, you know, to take power away from the thing that is so dark and disturbing by, finding some kind of humor in whatever's happening. And I think we've got to be very careful with that.
Yeah.
And so the clients that I probably do that with the most are probably the ones I've seen for a very long time. And I'm much more comfortable with them, and we have a rhythm with each other where we can do that. And hopefully, if it has happened, I'm not aware of it, that someone hasn't left feeling like that, that, well, Josh must think that he's just a comedian in the session that I'm having,
Yeah.
That's not the point of it. So.
Right.
I feel like there's a difference in between like laughing with someone versus them walking away feeling like you laughed at them or the situation.
Or to take it seriously. Yeah.
Right.
So wanting it, like what you were describing with a client that you have been working with for a long time, you've got that rapport built.
Right.
And so there's kind of this assurance that you're laughing with them because you're laughing literally alongside them, not at them in the situation they're in.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I feel like it's also just a way of, it's like its own language. I have, when I have clients who work in either similar fields or like some sort of helping field or medical field, like they already kind of have a dark humor like me. And so we tend to get there quicker because it's just like it's a form of language in itself and a way to connect.
It is,
Yeah, it sure is.
And then, I think we've all talked about this before, like when you bring your dark sense of humor outside of that context and it's with someone who is working behind a
Not
computer and they're
calloused.
not as funny as we are. Yeah, not calloused. I forgot what I was saying.
Using that humor with people who are not calloused and how it can
Oh yeah, and so I think
Hold
that
your hands
helps.
there.
help at
I
that
We'll
think-
point.
splice this together if you hold your hand
Bring it back.
right there.
Wait, don't let me lose it again. But so those types of clients, I feel like also enjoy that because then they don't feel weird or they feel like, oh, this person gets it because if it's the same for them. If they take it to the wrong context, they're like, oh, you don't want to talk about dead bodies or whatever. I don't know.
That
Like,
joke did not land well.
Dead bunnies.
do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I do get what you're saying. Yes,
That was good, Mary.
Yeah.
Thanks.
that is good. Yeah.
Wait, what was good?
Your explanation.
Oh, okay. You're saying it
Just
like
trying
it's
to
sarcastic.
validate you. No, I'm not being sarcastic.
Well, you're laughing at me, not with me, Josie.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
Am I laughing right
do. Yeah, but we have good rapport, so
Do we?
Yeah.
I'm relying on that.
your relationship is pretty solid.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
That trauma bond, remember? We mentioned it earlier.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to do a episode on trauma bonding so everybody knows what we're
What
talking
we're
about.
referring
Oh yeah, this
to.
is definitely our dark.
We're
humor
doing that
seeping through.
too. I think I want to call dibs on that one then.
Okay.
For
Oh
our
yeah, you guys
discussion.
should be our guests. How about
Okay.
that?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. There we
Okay,
go.
got it.
Maybe we are. Maybe this is yours.
Inception.
Oh no.
You guys just did all the work.
Carrie said, "Oh no, I'm not
It
going
doesn't
down that
feel
road
like-
with you, Josh."
I know. This becomes a whole trip to take.
Look, he's holding back too. He's thinking about it.
I kind of think Carrie saves all her jabs or if humorous jabs for
Oh,
me
you do?
to make.
I'm
make
sure
me
you like
laugh.
to think that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like to think you're special.
I do.
I put all my
that
jabs
okay?
in one box reserved.
I've embraced this
Okay,
part of
whatever
my
you need
middle
to do.
childness.
Yeah, I know, middle child. Yeah.
Right. I do think with so sometimes I will even mention certain points comedians make because I remember somebody who, probably a comedian, saying that the thing that makes us laugh is when something skates the line of absurdity and reality. So it's that classic thing is like, it's funny because it's true,
That's right.
type
Yeah.
thing. And so to kind of help people see the forest despite the trees, or in spite of the trees, I think sometimes like tell them like, hey, I heard a comedian once say da 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 da, and as a way of saying like, it's absurd, it's absurd, and I think that so far anyways, unless again people haven't said anything, I don't think that anybody's been too terribly offended by the use of somebody's comedy bit in that.
Thank goodness for that.
Thank goodness for that, because I do use I have some in my pocket that I just that are kind of regular You want me to tell you guys
One-liners?
one?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. So I remember.
That
So I
I've
gotta
heard
give
this.
credit here. When we're talking, so we all work with clients who have dealt with betrayal trauma, right? And one of the things that happens to the person who has been unfaithful is they will often fall deep into their shame and guilt and feel like that in effort to make up for what they've done, that this is a life sentence for them, that they basically just have to hand over the pen that writes the story that they're using to write the story of their life to their partner and just let them write the story as penance, but it's a life sentence is kind of what it feels like. And I remembered a bit that Jim Gaffigan did where he was talking about the Pope, when the Pope was, a guy attempted to assassinate the Pope. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
What year was that, Carrie?
Well, there were several attempts, but
The one where he actually got shot.
in the 90s, yeah.
Oh no,
Okay.
we were babies.
Okay. So anyways, Jim Gaffigan points out, like, did you hear that, that the Pope forgave the guy, And he said, like, well, it's not like he had to live with him or anything, right? He's like, so
Yeah.
he's like, if they had to live together and
Might have
then
felt
the
differently.
Pope's like, hey, or the guy's like, hey, Pope, it's your turn to do dishes. The Pope would be like, you shot me. I think it's always your turn to do dishes.
Yeah.
And that's
like it.
and so that often kind of becomes the image when I'm helping them learn to forgive themselves and saying, and sometimes I'll go, it's always your turn to do dishes, isn't it?
Oh, I like that. I might have to steal it.
Good.
Yeah.
comedy in there.
I'll quote Josh
The
quoting Jim
comedians
Gaffigan.
have
that's
a
right.
way,
Good job.
like the really, of pointing out absurdity, and so. But that's just one of few that I have. So.
That reminds me too. It's also when you use like a sarcastic version of humor, it can kind of reflect to your clients either their absurd behaviors or absurdity around them. Of like, I don't know. Carrie's really good at that. I feel like we're
Sarcasm.
yeah, in a helpful way. Like even Carrie said things around me where I'm like, oh, that was a good point. I laughed, but then I'm like, oh no, she got me.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know,
Made
when
you
I became
think.
a therapist, my mom got me a magnet that said "Sarcasm, just another service I offer."
Yeah.
She's
love that.
very wise, right? She knew that
You know
was
what?
part of the deal.
Let me tell you guys something about Carrie.
Oh.
Okay, she doesn't know I'm telling you this. It's a secret.
It's a
All
secret
right.
that we're putting on live.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
that,
totally comfortable with that.
Her biggest effort at sarcasm, which really works, like I said, her most effective, is she'll stare at you and then she'll lick her canines.
Josh, you're bringing up my teeth.
But it's like, it's like she sticks her tongue on her teeth and she's
Hannah's
like,
laughing. I would just
and
like
it's
everyone
like-
to know.
I sound
and
like
it's like
She's visibly shaking.
you have been busted. Like
is that what
you
that
don't
means?
have to
That's the tell.
say a
So
word.
now I know when to run away.
yeah, my kids will probably know
And,
what you're talking about.
and sorry, I'm playing this out in my head.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay. He's
And she
trauma
does the head nod like this.
processing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Busted? That's what that means?
Yeah, like something's gone wrong.
Something's gone.
But I'm like, oh.
Now I know
I
this.
know.
So I guess that's not. I don't know if that's sarcasm or like you see me in a way
I was
I
gonna
don't want you to see me right now.
Well,
Well, sarcasm may follow sometimes, perhaps.
Maybe yes. Yeah.
was thinking earlier, like, can humor be nonverbal? Or really, I think it's sarcasm. Can it be nonverbal? Because I use
good point.
For sure.
my face a lot.
Yes.
And, during candidacy, we have to record ourselves. And
You do this.
Do what? Yeah.
Then it gets me going.
You do that too.
So I was watching myself during candidacy when I had to record a session, and I looked, and oh my gosh, I was saying not a single word, but my face and my body language was screaming. I just remember being like, Josie, you're being a sarcastic a-hole. Like, because I just was like emphatically nodding, and like, but my
But
eyes
you're
were
like-
wide, and like you could tell that I wasn't. And I was
You were
like,
saying a lot.
right.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I think what I can remember from the rest of that, like,
Sure.
it was like, oh, you don't agree with that, do you? And I was like,
Yeah, sure.
What do you want me to say?
Yeah.
Right.
How much more emphatic do I need to be in my?
Right. No one calls me subtle around here.
No, that's true. You're direct. That's very true.
So I think you can use like humor or sarcasm non-verbally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like its own intervention.
It is its own. And I think it really meets people, I mean, appropriately so. But I mean, we have clients that are coming in with huge problems that are so anxious they want them solved today. And it's, you know, I think it's perfectly appropriate to be like, I know you do. And we got started. And I'm sure, you know, I said to my overachievers, I'm sure you'll have this workbook read by next time I see you and have a graduate degree, right, by then.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Which is sarcastic, of course, but it's also a like, I see you and I know where your heart is, right? I see the attempt of it. So you're not going to have it done. And I know that, and it's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to the listener out there, like I want people to know that this isn't done willy-nilly. Like, I mean, it's intentional. It's we're constantly looking for the right spot to insert that type of intervention. Like humor is an intervention.
Yeah.
It really is. And I do think Mary and I were talking, you know, in the other episode we were doing before we had technical difficulties about like sometimes at least she and I do this at times, feel like did we do too much humor in that one? You know, I'm like that too, and I think some of that's just, you know, like when you let your personality go a little too well, you might feel that way. I don't think I ever have. It's just like, you know, I definitely was, you know, need to rein it in sometimes
Too
on
chummy.
that front. But the start of that, or the decision to put it in the equation, isn't something that just is like it's not an impulse control issue. You know, it's like it's intentional. You know, we find value in it. But we also know, or think, you know, we're paying attention to where the client is and the personality of the client, because if we find value in it in general, does it mean that any particular client's going to find value in it at any particular time?
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
but so that kind of leads into like a top you know, I think something we should talk about is when might it be inappropriate, which I've probably never done.
No, sure.
I hope I haven't. I really hope I
Well,
haven't.
you were just saying it's not an impulse control issue, but sometimes I think for me, maybe a tiny bit it is, because I've realized, I don't know if you guys have you guys ever watched Gilmore Girls?
What?
Have you watched Gilmore Girls, the show?
Oh, yeah, I know of it.
No.
Okay. I have come to realize I'm Lorelai Gilmore, but not necessarily in the best way. She actually offends people a lot in the show, because she'll just make jokes and then they're like, what are you saying? And I was thinking about that too in our meeting the other day, Josh, when you're like, Mary, what are you saying? You have your I was like resting my hand. It's because I just like think out loud sometimes, and then I'm like, oh, I just made a joke and I said it out loud. Now people have heard that, and I don't know if it landed. Sometimes it lands really well and sometimes it does not. Those moments do happen for me with clients a little bit.
But it was interesting, though, on that particular thing, is like you were saying something, and it's like your body was trying to keep your mouth shut.
Exactly, yes.
And I could understand a word you said.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
and
like my
when
body knew, Mary, no.
And when you said it, when you took your hand off your chin and you said it, I found it to be funny that that's what you said, because like I did not get that. I mean, your body was working hard to shut your mouth.
And I see like that in session a lot too. Maybe that's why. Maybe my body just knows, like, we'll try and slow it down.
You need a little like gauge.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
maybe they just won't hear
Don't say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I remember having a client that we were doing Zoom sessions, and his hand would come on his head and like pull his head out of the camera. And I'm like, and I brought that up to him. I was like, it's like your body, and we kind of made a joke about it. You know, it's like your body is actually trying to say, get away from this. This guy's going to get you killed. You know, like that survivor comes. That's what I call the internal samurai comes in and is like, your warrior. It's like, we're in war, buddy. You can't be doing this ooey gooey stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and he found that to be funny. And I actually do think sometimes that is happening, you know. I think we were talking about when Whitney was our guest, like Carrie, you said that you feel like most of the truth is in body sensations, right? Or how did you say it?
That you find the truth mostly through the body channel.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And true.
Yeah, but
Which
we're not-
also probably is a good way to kind of come back to your question of when's it not okay. If, as a therapist, you should be checking in with yourself throughout, right? And if you were impulsive or you get so caught up in the hurt and you're, like you're saying, using humor to help yourself feel better.
Right.
You're not paying attention to, I'm really nervous, so I'll make a joke. If you don't have that awareness built into it, you could make light of things, right? I think we do that with messages of hope as well, right? It's like, this thing's really taking a turn. I need to make them laugh. I need to say something kind.
You're right.
But that may not be appropriate.
Right.
The other thing too is, and this is something I try to be extremely careful with, is a lot of our the issues that we're working with clients are things related around sexuality, right? And so it's common that they'll come in with some, kind of, or make some kind of joke about sex or sexuality or something like that, and I think that's okay. I think that it kind of fits right along with, like, pointing out the absurdity of certain things. But at the same time, like, I don't want their partners to think that, we're sitting in here just having a bro session, and so, like, that's something that, particularly when we're dealing with, like, infidelity type issues and stuff like that I'm paying attention to, so it doesn't get out of hand.
I feel like things that I've noticed for myself would be when I find myself questioning if I've used too much humor, is some feedback to me of maybe therapy is coming to an end. Like, things are just so lighthearted and it almost starts to feel very chummy.
Yeah.
You're just talking.
Yeah, and then I'm like, oh, okay.
Right.
I feel like maybe we joked the majority of that session, so either we need to figure out and, like, rein it in and go back to treatment goals, or take this as, and so then it usually will be like a check-in.
Yeah.
Like, hey, last time we're having a lot of fun in here, and, like, I'm so glad, but we also want it to be productive.
Yeah, that's good. Good point.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is, I think, that happens at various times. Instead of feeling like you're just a crappy therapist, who didn't do right by your client on that one session, which, by the way, sometimes we have bad days too.
Sure.
But to look at it as, like, why did this session get so chummy? And sometimes it is a sign of progress in a way like that. So to kind of evaluate if you need to keep doing this, or a new set of goals, or we're kind of just doing checkups from here on out,
Yeah.
And so
Trying to think other times that it's not good to use it. I just use it most of the time at the right time.
You're just that good at it.
yeah,
So good.
your timing is so good.
Yeah. There are times when I'm thinking too, like, if a client's giving you feedback, sometimes of, like, I don't know. It doesn't happen that often, but if they're giving you feedback, if you make a joke, then you're just going to come off defensive. That's not helpful. We need to be able to receive that from our clients.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Even if it's like, hey, and I didn't like that homework that I had to do.
Yeah.
Instead of, like, deflecting with humor.
Or like that time you were handing out tour dates for your comedy show to your clients.
Yeah, that was inappropriate.
That's a joke. That did not happen.
Right. And we must clarify.
Not yet.
Yeah,
It's a
she
joke.
just handed them to us.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. It's kind of harder to think about when not to use it for some reason. I thought
Hopefully
was
that
amazing.
reflects that you're comfortable with it.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
I
a
agree.
tool that you know how to use in your toolbox.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hope that it'd be hard for any of us to imagine using humor inappropriately in session, because I think it would just speak to, like, I don't know, either lack of experience or not
Not
being
Reading
maybe
the
one of those
self-awareness.
therapists that slip
Aware.
through the cracks.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
same would be true like with other personal facets of your skill set. So like if you're going to use your personal story to tell to make a point, or I think also too like I very rarely have cried with a client. I would say I almost cry every damn day in these sessions. Like there's like my eyes get teary or glossed over, but every now and then like I will let those emotions be seen a little bit more strategically. But if you just were every session you had, you're just bawling.
Yeah. We're
breaking
not
tissues for you.
robots. Yeah. we are
Probably
not
not
robots.
going to go over very well.
Yeah. No,
And
they're
so-
like, you can't handle my stuff. How am I supposed to?
right.
It's about me, not you.
Yeah.
one time.
That's a fun time for me too. I say fun because again, I'm dark and twisted as a therapist. I'm just kidding. But when a client cracks a joke about themselves, but I'm like, oh, they went a little farther, and I kind of like smile with them, and I'm like, okay, what made you say that? And the next thing you know, they're crying. Like they went from this really high to this really low, but I'm like, you needed to come here because what you just said was definitely again that congruency thing. Like, that was
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
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 Sometimes
love
that's
those moments
that's
where I'm like,
progress too.
They're about to be crying.
Yeah.
Like there's a target and you're like, attack.
Yeah. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, and I think that's a good time to mention. I remember a time when you'd come in here, and when things get uncomfortable, you'd start making jokes and laughing, and look at you now. You're letting yourself feel these feelings that were at least one time so dangerous that you wouldn't let them be seen, and now at least they're not so dangerous that you're hiding them. So
Yeah.
it's good progress with
Yeah.
that. So.
I just keep thinking about the, I want to say evolution, but I don't know if that's the right word, but like the evolution of therapy over time and how people, maybe when they think of therapy, think that they're going to be laying on a couch crying. And oftentimes it seems as though people are a little bit surprised that like we come into therapy and we do the hard work and we talk about the difficult things, but also you might walk away being like, that was not so bad, maybe even fun. That's likely not going to be every session. So if someone has never experienced therapy, they might be surprised to hear that humor also has a place in the session.
Sure. Yeah. So, and thank goodness. Or I don't know that we could all do it. We'd burn out after
Oh my gosh.
No
yeah.
good.
how many months?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Also, that wouldn't be fun for me if I went to a therapist and they had no sense of humor. Again, that's just
You
my
wouldn't,
personality.
but that's not
I'm
your
the-
language. You wouldn't
Yeah,
speak it,
that's
right?
true.
You couldn't sit there and try and translate that all.
I would be like, okay, now my life feels too sad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
50 to 55 minutes of like intense. Tell me your deepest, darkest emotions and feelings.
Yeah.
Like, you got to break it up with something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cope.
I prefer
Humor.
I've enjoyed when we've been talking, like when we're talking more about when to use humor, we've been a little bit louder and laughing. And then when we started to talk about not when to use humor, we got quieter and softer.
Contemplative.
But we're still riding that wave like we probably would in a session.
It does
Right.
feel like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, well, we could keep going on and on. Obviously, we've proven that we can
That
Yes.
were funny.
go longer,
we are
given
hilarious.
that we
Yeah.
with the technical difficulties that we had. So it always seems to happen with you guys.
One of us must be haunted. I don't
I
know.
don't know.
So maybe
Yeah.
more Are You in Session to come, or maybe not if nothing works.
Right. If it explodes one day,
can't
all
get
the
the sound to
equipment.
work.
Can I do a plug for a podcast I've enjoyed?
Sure.
This just
Yeah,
makes me
let's
think-
plug someone else's podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, one podcast that is like the perfect combination of terrifying, dark, and also really funny is Comedians with Ghost Stories. I actually
Oh,
haven't
that
listened to it in a
sounds
long time,
hilarious.
but it's really good because they're funny people, but they're also describing like these terrifying ghost
Spooky.
experiences. So there's my little plug.
It's a nice sweet
Do you
salty
have- do you
together.
have a
Yeah,
ghost-
it's pretty salty.
Spicy.
Do
Just
you
when I
have
was
a
pregnant,
ghost
I was like, I gotta
experience?
stop.
Yeah.
I think so.
You don't want to share? Now that you
not.
brought it up,
Yeah.
or you want to
That
say
can
it
be
That's a
for
different-
That could be
episode.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put that on the
I got one
October
too.
calendar.
I got a good one.
I'm sure you
But I
do,
won't
Josh. I
share
might
it
be too scared.
right
I
now.
get scared from other people's ghost stories.
More than the one
Mine's-
you
Oh
live
my
mine's,
god,
with.
what happened to me?
It's you can ask my wife. Like it's pretty
Oh wait,
intense.
maybe you told me. Was it about
Like I've
Bob?
heard this.
Yeah, about
Okay.
our
Yeah,
friend
that did
Bob
scare
the
me
friendly
actually.
ghost.
Because then I go home and I have my kids' toys and it's going off. Well, not the same time, but like a couple weeks later. It happened.
All right.
Anyway,
I have to figure out a way to work that story in another episode, but we're pushing it right now with time, so we probably should wrap up. But I really thank you guys for making the time to do this and hanging in there. I know you guys were supposed to record last week, I think, and we had or 2 weeks ago maybe there was
Technical
tech
maybe we're not meant to
difficulties.
be. Maybe people don't actually want to hear us.
Maybe we're
Yeah.
not
Someone's
funny.
trying to cut us
So-
off.
But I really like watching you guys, and now we'll enjoy listening on the podcast as we do that. And Carrie, thanks for being here
Thanks,
and,
Josh.
and doing
End it
this.
with, thanks, Carrie.
I just don't want to upset her. That's all. Like, I want her
You
to
don't
keep
want
doing
the
this with
canine
me.
coming
Like,
back.
He's afraid one day I'll say that's it.
Like, I'm done.
It's no more podcasts.
Someone strategically put a clock right over there by her, so every time I'm like, now I'm watching this clock because you usually watch the clock.
She has one.
I
right here.
have one.
I know you
Is that
have one,
clock
but
correct?
I'm watching
Yes.
it, stressing out that I'm going too long.
Okay.
Mine's fast. Remember I said that. That one's mine.
Oh,
It's still
okay.
too long.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Just to
don't-
be true.
Let's be clear on something. I'm not stressed out that we're going too long. I'm stressed out that we're going too long for Carrie. I want
I'm
her to
thinking
keep-
about how much
All day.
editing you have to do.
That's true. She's thinking of you.
yeah.
Good,
He can splice it up.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, but he has to listen to all the work for it.
I think he likes to listen to it though.
Too.
Oh, well, that may be true.
No.
I'm gonna do the.
Don't reveal him.
I'm gonna lick my teeth. Carrie, do
Mary.
the look. Do the look. Carrie.
Now I
It's-
will never
Can't do it
look
on
again.
demand.
Just come up with a
Just
new
have to
one.
change it up. You're until it's forced. Like, like just eating sour candy.
I know.
Well, it's fun having you guys,
Thanks
and
for having us.
maybe we'll have you back again soon.
Maybe so.
All right.
Bye.
Putting on the views.